Caddis Maximus here, this time with a basic or more easy video for me today. Been a kind of a long day. This is the Harbor Freight Hercules versus the Harbor Freight Bauer quick released 1-inch bit compatible impact rated bit holders. These things actually on the shelf do look pretty nice. They are an aluminum and steel construction. They actually have dual ball bearings. If we spin around on the Hercules, you can see them on the edge there. And indeed the Bauer, you can just see it there, is also a dual ball bearing retention mechanism. And time will tell how well they hold up, because I believe it's this aluminum collar which is what's retaining the balls, and we'll see if that gets dented out and they end up releasing. But in my experience, I've actually had another one of these, not from Harbor Freight, that seemed to hold up pretty well. The Bauer's $7 and the Hercules is $8. For a $1 difference, you're actually getting a much better bit on the Hercules than you are on the Bauer. Another thing I found interesting is these don't look like what they do on the website. Generally, they do with the release collars, but on the Bauer, they showed it being laser etched, and on the Hercules, they showed it being laser etched and actually having a neck down shank like this. So these on the shelf are not exactly the same as what they have on their website photos. So these things work great in drills. For impact drivers, for instance, DeWalt's are pretty friendly to 1-inch bits. I found the Milwaukees are a little bit deep, and when you use a 1-inch bit in the Milwaukee, it tends to sit just a little bit too far. So these little adapters are even advantageous in that situation, because obviously short little 1-inch bits are going to be much more cost effective than even their 2-inch counterparts. Both of these holders do have indeed rare earth neodymium magnets, and they both work exactly the same, where they're just a quick release where you can push it in. And these are one of the holders that actually relies on the little cutouts on bits. If you've ever wondered why all the bits have those cutouts, it's because it's actually a standard. So in this case, you just set the bit in there, the magnet holds it, and you just press on it, and it just seats right down. And we can see, like with these turned down DeWalt bits, they actually look really nice because it sits perfectly flush. And they're indeed one-handed, because you can just pull the collar and that will release it, and then you can go and yank the bit out. Of course, it'd be the same way on the Hercules. I'll just use a different bit here just to show. Just push it in, and it's nice and locked in. Pull the collar, pops right out. I kind of like this style of design. Now, some of the other differences, if you were going to get one of these off the shelf, spend the extra $1 on the Hercules. And the reason is I'm not sure why the collar is different on this Bauer. It almost looks like it was designed to have like a rubber band around that for a variety of manufacturers. But the Hercules actually has this nice 4 knurled ring, so it's a lot easier to work with. We can see that in this case, it doesn't have a turned down shank going into the body, so it's going to be a little bit stronger. That would be the second point. And then the third point we can see here is they actually added or pressed on a reinforcing ring right there, where they didn't on the Bauer. And they want to put that ring on there unless some kind of testing or evidence that it may need it, especially with high power impact drivers. So I may be a little bit more worried about the Bauer, but maybe they're relying on this torsion to kind of compensate for it, where on the Hercules it's meant to deliver more energy, so they had to reinforce it there. So for both of these, they're actually, relatively speaking, expensive. $7 and $8 for a little bit holder, so I'm hoping they hold up pretty well. But they do seem to be pretty nicely made. They are made in Taiwan. They are not Chinese. And as far as the fit and finish and, function of them, they seem to work really well. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Might as well drive a screw a couple times and just see if there's, the first time using it, if I notice anything. Obviously, this will be a little bit noisy, but I do like these setups. You put it in there, and, in certain situations, allows you to get extra reach. What I was meaning about the 1-inch bits is you can't put a 1-inch bit in these Milwaukees, but they just don't want to cooperate, and for some reason, they don't lock into place. Where on a DeWalt, they actually will lock into place, even if we use one of these super short ones. For some reason, that just doesn't activate the mechanism, and it just won't lock into place. It's really kind of strange. You need a proper 2-inch bit. It's specifically designed to accept that long shank. So in this particular situation, these things are, if all you have is 1-inch bits, then they're absolutely necessary. Let's drive it in there. If I can get my arm. This will obviously be a little bit noisy here. There we go. Seems really just fine. I just wanted to see if it was going to lock up on the first time using it. It got a little bit tight there. Let's pull that back out and see if I have the same feeling. Screws get hot when you do that. Yeah, so just using that, we'll see if it kind of breaks in, but when after impacting, the collar isn't super free floating. I actually have to... Oh, interesting. That collar actually jammed up on me. That is the point of these demonstrations, and why people ask. I can't believe the first time using this. What is going on here? Yeah, that thing actually is locked up solid. Look at this. I can't even get that. It doesn't want to release the bit. Okay, upon really close inspection, you can just see a little tiny flat above the groove. Right there, you can just see that little shiny spot. So what's happened is there's a little bit of clearance in there, and so it's driven the bit under the ball bearing, and that's how it got jammed. So I just had to fiddle with it, ended up coming loose. That is something that will break in, and to tell you the truth, the way it dented in on this really hard steel bit shows that at least it's decent quality, and that's just going to be something that will just break in probably after only a 10 or 20 screws. So I'm not super concerned about it. Now I know what's going on is just the fact that it's super tight tolerances when it's brand new and drove the bit in there a little bit. And I have to admit I have encountered that issue with other brands of these before, especially when sometimes you'll get these bits and those little grooves, those little retention grooves are super shallow and barely there, then they really will want to kind of jam up. On this little DeWalt bit, they are a bit bigger, so I'm suspecting I'll have better luck here. See if we can't get this started. I'll eventually do a review of this Milwaukee Impact. Got a lot of videos to make. Smoking hot. I'm not... Oh, come on. Well, the magnetism really works well. That's actually pretty nice. Oh, wow. Let's do that one more time. Actually, let's do that with the bit that locked up in the Bauer. That's fully seated. We'll do... Ooh, holy smokes. That is hot. That is one hot screw. After this, it's going to really be on fire. Not even going to touch that. Yep, so it's this bit. Because this bit also locked up in here. All I have to do is just fiddle with it. Come on now. There we go, and I can feel it pop out. As soon as that happens, it releases. So in this situation, it actually had no issue with this DeWalt bit, which had just slightly deeper grooves. However, this one with just slightly shallower grooves, I would actually have to call this a level 6 standard grooves, and then a level 7 deeper grooves, and you'll know what channel I'm referencing when I say that. And so that'd be the story with these. It's actually something not totally unexpected, and it's more just to bring awareness that with these types of holders that use the ball bearings in those grooves, you're just going to have to deal with a few jammed bits until they kind of break in, or you just end up getting a different set of bits that just doesn't exhibit the issue. Anyway, and the one last thing I will mention is those little rings at the beginning of the video you could see were nice and black. And look at that, just a few impacts and railers already got quite a bit of wear. I'm really surprised. I mean, it did just scrape off the anodizing, but still, nonetheless, it was just a couple screws in it. You know, visually, it actually looks like it was pounding those little aluminum rings. Were getting pretty well beat up. And I'm, of course, realizing this black ring is actually what is pushing in the ball bearings and retaining them. And it is indeed non-magnetic. It is aluminum, so I'll actually use these and provide an updated video to see how well they hold up. But I'm a little bit worried about that, to tell you the truth, because that's actually the ball bearing scraping around in there. And it seems like the impact when it hits is accelerating the core of the bit faster than even the collar, and so it allows the collar to spin around. That's going to cause a grinding action in there, and that over time, who knows exactly how much time, that groove will get deep enough to where the balls won't even retain bits anymore. So they'll go from super tight to working pretty well to not really retaining the bits, although they do have the backup magnet, so that's kind of a nice option. So even if they aren't fully locking, at least the bit holder will still relatively work until the inner collar kind of strips out. Anyway, kind of knowing that, I probably shouldn't have spent the 15 bucks on these little bit holders, but you know, I really like collecting all these different little objects for quarter-inch drive. There just seems to be a massive variety, and that's why I picked these up. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.